We have talked about the players who robbed the NBA in the past, the Chandler Parsons and the Allen Houstons of the world. We have talked about the broken front offices that hand out these deals. But today, we need to get specific. The NBA is currently awash in money. The new TV deal has sent the salary cap into the stratosphere, and as a result, the definition of a max contract has become terrifying. We are seeing role players getting paid like superstars, and superstars getting paid like small countries. We are looking for the inefficiencies. The guys who are cashing checks that their on-court production simply cannot cash. Whether it's due to injury, age, or just being wildly overrated by a desperate GM, these are the contracts that keep franchises awake at night. From the merely overpriced to the absolute financial anchors, this is every overpaid NBA player, explained. We kick off the list at number 13 with Jerami Grant. Now, Jerami Grant is a good basketball player. He is a versatile defender, he can score 20 points a night, and he fits on almost any roster. But he is the classic example of good player, terrible context. The Portland Trail Blazers gave him a 5-year, $160 million contract to be, what exactly? The veteran leader of a rebuild? The second option on a team that is fighting for lottery balls. He is currently earning over $30 million a year to put up empty stats on a losing team. When you pay a guy this much money, you expect him to either elevate you to the playoffs or be a trade asset you can flip for value. Grant is neither. He is too good to let the Blazers fully tank, but not good enough to make them win. And because his contract is so massive, other teams are terrified to trade for him without Portland attaching assets. He is a luxury item in a house that is currently under construction. At number 12, we have Jordan Poole. I mentioned him in my last video about terrible front offices, but he deserves his own spot here. The Wizards couldn't wait to get off this money, and now the Pelicans are stuck holding the bag. We are talking about a guy making roughly $32 million this season to be an inefficient shot chucker. The idea of Jordan Poole is intoxicating. He's got the flash, the deep threes, the championship pedigree from Golden State. But the reality is a defensive liability who shoots 30-something% from the field and turns the ball over like it's his job. He is being paid like a fringe all-star, but he impacts winning like a replacement-level player. The gap between his salary and his actual value on the court is one of the widest in the league. When you are paying over $128 million guaranteed for a spark plug off the bench who sometimes doesn't even spark, you have a problem. Number 11 is a tough one because I like Immanuel Quickley, but we have to be objective about the money. The Toronto Raptors gave him a 5-year, $175 million contract. That is massive money. That is franchise point guard money. The issue is that Quickley, for all his talent, has not proven he is that guy yet. He is an incredible energy guy, a great shooter, and a solid defender. But $175 million implies that you are an all-star lock. It implies you can be the number 1 or number 2 option on a contender. So far in Toronto, he has been good, averaging around 16 points and 6 assists, but he hasn't taken that superstar lab. The Raptors paid for his absolute ceiling, betting that he would turn into Tyrese Maxey. If he stays at his current level, a solid starter, this contract becomes a massive overpay that clogs their cap sheet for half a decade. They paid for potential, but the bill has arrived, and the production isn't quite matching the price tag. At number 10, we have a sad situation. Khris Middleton was a vital part of a championship team in Milwaukee. He was Money Middleton. But the NBA is a cruel business, and past performance doesn't justify current checks. Traded to the Washington Wizards in February 2025 for Kyle Kuzma, Middleton is now a 34-year-old veteran on a full-scale rebuild. He picked up his $33 million player option for this season. The Wizards are paying him over $30 million to be a mentor. That is an expensive tutor. His knees have betrayed him. He has lost a step, his availability is spotty, and his trade value has evaporated. Milwaukee knew they had to move off this contract to keep their window open, and Washington absorbed it just to get assets. But that doesn't change the fact that Middleton is earning superstar wages for role player production. He is a champion, but on the payroll, he is a burden. Number 9 takes us to Sacramento. The Zach LaVine saga finally ended with a trade to the Kings, but the contract remains undefeated. Zach is currently in the middle of a 5-year, $215 million deal. He is making over $47 million this season. When healthy, Zach is an elite scorer. He can shoot the lights out, but therein lies the rub. When healthy, he has chronic knee issues. He is a defensive turnstile, and historically, his teams do not win games. The Kings traded for him, hoping he would be the final piece of their puzzle. Instead, they acquired one of the most difficult contracts in the league to move. He's being paid like a top 10 player, but he impacts the game like a top 40 player. $47 million for a third option who misses 20 games a year is a recipe for salary cap hell. At number 8, we have the Prince of Charlotte, LaMelo Ball. The Hornets gave him the designated rookie max extension worth over $200 million. LaMelo is flashy. He puts people in seats. He throws passes that make SportsCenter every night. But we have to look at the 2 A's, availability and achievements. LaMelo has struggled to stay on the floor his entire career. His ankles have become a chronic concern. And even when he plays, does it lead to winning? He puts up massive stats, 23 points, 8 assists. But the Hornets are perpetually stuck in the basement of the Eastern Conference. You pay $200 million to a guy who is supposed to change your franchise's destiny. So far, LaMelo has only changed their highlight reel. Until he can play 65 games and lead a team to a winning record, this is a massive overpay for style over substance. Number 7 is controversial because the talent is undeniable. Ja Morant is electric. He is a cultural phenomenon. But the contract is nearly $200 million, and the availability is a nightmare. Between the suspensions for off-court issues and the devastating shoulder injuries, Ja simply hasn't been on the floor enough to justify the max tag. Availability is the best ability, and Ja has missed huge chunks of his prime years. When he plays, he is worth every penny. But the Grizzlies are paying him almost $40 million a year to watch games from the sideline in street clothes. It's a harsh reality, but in a capped league, you cannot have your highest paid player playing 30 games a season. The risk factor with Jay, both physical and behavioral, makes this contract one of the most volatile assets in the NBA. At number 6, we stay in the same draft class with Zion Williamson. This contract is fascinating because the Pelicans tried to protect themselves. It has weight clauses. It has games played triggers. But at the end of the day, it's still a max contract for a guy who is a maybe every single night. Zion is a force of nature. He averages 23 points on elite efficiency. But the Zion cycle is exhausting. He comes into the season, he looks dominant, he gets hurt, he gains weight, he gets suspended, like we saw in January 2025, and the team falls apart. The Pelicans are paying nearly $200 million for a player they cannot trust. They can't trust his health, they can't trust his conditioning, and they can't trust his availability. It is the most expensive gamble in the league. And right now, the house is winning. At number 5, we have a new entry to the overpaid list in his new home, Jimmy Butler. In February 2025, Jimmy finally forced his way out of Miami and landed with the Golden State Warriors. The Warriors, desperate to maximize the twilight of Steph Curry's career, traded for him and handed him a massive 2-year extension worth over $113 million. I love Jimmy Butler. He is one of the greatest playoff performers of his generation, but he is 36 years old. He relies heavily on athleticism and getting to the foul line. He misses 25% of the regular season like clockwork. The Warriors are paying over $55 million a year for a player who is clearly on the back nine of his career. They paid for the name Jimmy Buckets, but they're getting Jimmy Bricks. It was a panic move by Golden State. And while it sells jerseys, paying a 36-year-old non-shooter that kind of money is objectively bad business. At number 4, we have a complete disaster situation: Anthony Davis. After the blockbuster trade that sent Luka Doncic to the Lakers, Anthony Davis landed in Dallas, and it has been a nightmare from day one. He is currently on a 3-year extension worth $175 million, paying him roughly $58 million a year. But here's the problem: he isn't playing. Davis has been unavailable for the Mavericks, dealing with nagging injuries that have kept him in street clothes, while the franchise tries to find an identity without Luka. The Mavericks are now paying nearly $60 million annually for a superstar who is effectively a part-time consultant. Reports are already surfacing that Dallas is looking to flip him, trying to trade him to a third team just to get off the money. But who is trading for an aging big man with this contract and this injury history? Dallas traded their future for a win-now piece that isn't winning and isn't playing. It is a financial anchor sinking the entire post-Luka era. I'm terribly sorry to interrupt, but please like and subscribe if you can. I'm a small creator with no team, and each video takes over 20 hours to make, so your support truly makes a difference. Now, let's get back to the video. We're in the top 3, and it's the usual suspects. Number 3, Kawhi Leonard. The Clippers gave him a 3-year, $150 million extension. $50 million a year, plus the alleged under-the-table $28 million. At this point, paying Kawhi Leonard to play basketball is like paying a weatherman who only works when it's sunny. He is rarely available. The Clippers built a $2 billion arena, the Intuit Dome, hoping he would be the face of it. Instead, he is the face of the injury report. When he plays, he is still elite. He is a machine. But you cannot build a franchise around a part-time employee. $50 million of your salary cap is tied up in a guy who might miss the entire playoffs with knee inflammation. It handcuffs the roster, it demoralizes the fan base, and it makes the Clippers one of the most disappointing financial experiments in sports history. At number 2, the process himself, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid signed a massive extension that will pay him nearly $60 million a year, well into his 30s. He is an MVP. He is unguardable. But he is also broken. We are watching a man's body break down in real time. The knee injuries, the conditioning issues, the playoff disappearances. The Sixers have committed over 35% of their cap space to a player who has never reached the conference finals. You know, it is a tragedy because the talent is Hall of Fame level, but the contract is an albatross. Paying $69 million to a 35-year-old 7-foot center with bad knees in 2029? That is the kind of contract that gets GMs fired. It is an emotional investment, not a logical one. And finally, at number 1, is a historic mistake. So there you have it. Billions of dollars committed to players who are injured, aging, or just plain overrated. The NBA is a league where you have to spend money to win. But as this list proves, spending money is the easy part. Spending it wisely, that is the hardest job in sports. These contracts are a reminder that in the NBA, buyer beware. Which of these deals do you think is the most unmovable? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.